Welcome to your not daily dose. I guess your dose of salt and light. It's not daily anymore. I need to change the wording of how I say it. Probably change the wording of all my branding. And for those of you who are new to watching the show, I used to do a daily Monday to Friday. Um, I have childcare issues, so my nanny's on vacation for 6 weeks. So I'm just waiting for her to come back. So it's limited how much I can do. I used to do the show in the afternoon, and now it's in the evening at 9 p.m. because that's the only time my husband's home, and I've already finished supper, and then I've had time to get ready for the episode. So I have to say, I've missed you guys, and we last Thursday I was supposed to do a show, and I kind of did show quickly or shortly. I was live at Pierre Poilievre's event in Saskatoon, and it was insane. Actually, I didn't even think about it, but I probably should share some videos, which I might do. I'll just bring some of them up. They're on my phone. But the amount of people that were there were insane. The momentum was insane. And then Monday happened. And so I don't know if you guys remember, and I haven't changed my socials to reflect that. I was planning on changing the show to Monday evenings just to give it more separation between the show, because I think Tuesdays and Thursdays are too close together. But if I do Mondays and Thursday, I'll have more material to cover, and I can focus on the really important stuff and not just trying to find stuff to fill. But then Monday night was the election, and I was invited to the watch party or whatever, the victory party. And it was for Saskatchewan. It was a victory party for the CPC. So I was there Monday night. So I didn't end up doing a show. And then it was supposed to be Tuesday. I was dealing with family emergency. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just leave it. And I did post on YouTube, but I don't know if everyone saw it. Okay. And I want to say, but I missed you guys. And this was fun because before the show even went live and started, you can comment on the live feed. I guess you guys can find it. I don't even know how to do that. I don't know how to find other people's live feed. I didn't even know how to add a mod, but David, him and I exchange information. We've been texting, David and I, and he sent me a video of how to do it so he could help. Because last live stream, we had someone saying really gross, vulgar stuff in the chat, and I didn't see it because there were so many people commenting. There were so many lives, so many comments, so many people watching live. So I didn't see it. But now we have David who can keep an eye on it so that I can focus on the show. But yeah, I'm going to read some of the comments before I really get into what we're going to be discussing today. David says, if I lived close, I would have volunteered to be your nanny just so you could get back here more often. Oh, and it's a tough loss, but CPC still got a 41.3% of their vote, which would have won a conservative majority in any other era. We'll get them next time and bring it home. Yeah, I'm not saying they didn't have a good result. The end result, though, was not good for Canada. And from what I can see is a lot of the NDP voters went Liberal. So that's kind of what led to the Conservative not forming government. Oh, sorry. Max Power said, also Harper lost his first election too. Pierre has united the base and brought new people who traditionally voted Lib and NDP in Ontario. Max says, 3 cheers for modship. Thank you so much, David. I think you were one of the first ones that was like watching the show religiously, probably you and Heather, because Heather knows me personally. So we used to do Bible study together. Okay, let's get going into this. A lot of stuff. So I did find some juicy videos of Scott Moe. I had heard about them. I won't say where I heard about them, but I did find some of them. And so we're going to start with Saskatchewan stuff, which is not a whole lot, but there's a lot happening in Alberta. Actually, there's a lot happening in Saskatchewan, but it's getting released tonight. And our organization, the one that I am the founder and president of, is going to be taking the lead in Saskatchewan, the same thing that Alberta is doing, or Alberta Prosperity Project is doing in Alberta. I'll share that as well. But anyways, let's get into some videos of the response from Monday night's election result from some of the leaders in Saskatchewan and then Alberta. So I'll see. Let me know if anything doesn't work. We sometimes get technical difficulties. This is a live show. I love that you guys can tell me and fix it for me or at least warn me so I don't do an entire show without any sound on. But let's get this started. This was a video by Scott Moe.
I want to begin by thanking all of the party leaders as well as all of the candidates for their efforts in the most recent federal election. I also want to say thank you to all of the campaign workers as well as their family members that supported this endeavor. It's no small thing to put your name forward, to campaign for what you believe in, and to have the courage to accept the outcome of the voters. Well, Canadians have spoken, and I want to congratulate Prime Minister Mark Carney on his election. Canadians have given your government a new mandate. And while you had strong support in many parts of Canada, many people, including most here in Saskatchewan, well, they voted for a degree of change. And now it's up to you to show that you heard that message and to deliver that very change for Saskatchewan, for the industries here that help drive the Canadian economy, and for Saskatchewan families and individuals. Last night, you said you wanted to work with both Saskatchewan and Alberta. You've said you want to make Canada into a world-leading energy superpower, and that's great to hear, but those can't be just words. You see, policies matter. Policies really matter. And some of your government's policies are going to need to change in order for Canada to achieve that goal.
Oh, yes.
You said that we must deal with the US from a position of strength, and I couldn't agree more. And making Canada the world's leading energy superpower would be a pretty good start and a pretty good position of strength to work from. We have some ideas and some suggestions on how we could be able to do that, and what policies that your new government may need to change or alter in order for us as Canadians to achieve that goal. This is an opportunity for you to hit the reset button on the federal government's relationship for Saskatchewan, and it's an offer that we make, and I hope you take it. I would like to work with you to build a strong and growing Saskatchewan within a strong and united Canada. So I look forward to meeting with Prime Minister Carney as soon as possible so that we can start working together to achieve that goal.
I'm going to be critical here for a second. I keep saying this. He needs a better communications video team. They should have the camera and the projector further back and then zoom in closer so that it doesn't look like he's reading a screen. But it does look like he's reading a screen. But you could just see his body language. He's like, I don't want to congratulate him. Oh. But yeah, somebody wrote those words for him. That did not sound like Scott Moe. Wayne J. say, let's go Saskatchewan and team up with Alberta to stop what Ottawa has done to us for a long time and continue to do so. David says, I'm going to feature your tweet. Sorry, your comment. I don't know why I keep forgetting to do that. Those are just words. Carney never speaks specifics when he talks a resource leader. We know by omission what he is and what is not talked about. I know. Pitsky says, when Carney visits Trump, it will be elbows down and ankles up. Oh. I love that this show is live, that you guys get to share like your comments with me, because it makes it a lot more fun to do this. I don't think I would actually enjoy it if I was just like recording and speaking to a camera. I actually really like having you guys share your thoughts and be a part of it. Okay, there's a few other videos. I guess one is very like very passionate, I would say. But I just gotta make this bigger.
Put forward, Mr. Speaker, that it's...
There you go.
Mr. Speaker, there is this straw man argument really that is being put forward, Mr. Speaker, that it's either the status quo or separation. Well, the government of Saskatchewan is not interested in separation, and the government of Saskatchewan certainly isn't interested in the status quo either, Mr. Speaker. Here. Status quo where our province is being treated unfairly by a federal government for close to a decade now, supported every step of the way by the NDP, Mr. Speaker, and what we saw in this most recent federal election was 65% of Saskatchewan people didn't vote for that status quo either, Mr. Speaker. But it is not a straw man argument where it's status quo or separation. We don't like either of those. We think there is an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, and we truly believe and always have believed there is right to the founding principles of this party, that there is an opportunity for Saskatchewan to continue to grow and prosper in its economy, to grow its population, grow our communities, reinvest back into those communities, all within a strong, united nation of Canada.
I just realized the comment was still up. Where has that Scott Moe been? That was like passionate. That was like authentic. That was like, I care about my province. I'm not saying I agree 100%, but I do agree there needs to be step taken. But I also don't think we should move ahead until we start seeing what is going to happen. That's just being realistic. Now, I'm not saying I believe Mark Carney is going to be great for Saskatchewan. I don't think that for a second. However, the public will be watching, and if we move ahead before there's even any type of opposition, and I don't say we as in our organization, we can do it, but I don't think the current government can potentially say, okay, referendum tomorrow. For one, we're not ready for it. If there was a referendum tomorrow, we would likely lose, and then Mark Carney would have way more bargaining power. I think we need to be very strategic on it. I think we need to do a lot of research, a lot of campaigning to sway public opinion, to understand what it would look like. Because I've had so many questions. I'm sure some of those people have questions too. What would it look like? Like even just on the post, what would it look like for my pension? Like this person was obviously a retiree and was wondering if it separates, how does that affect their pension? So there's so many different things and concerns that needs to be looked at before we kind of we do these rash movements out of emotion because we had the election results we had last night. Now, I like this approach by Scott Moe. I think he was more authentic than I've seen in a lot of his previous stuff. It was way better than the other video I just played before it. So I think he should just like stop with the projector and just speak from the heart. And Aaron says, yeah, no knee jerk reaction. And in reality, that's what a lot of the government does a lot of the time. And it ends up affecting us and screwing us over the same way they ban the American alcohol from the liquor store when we provide the Americans with the barley to make that. So the malt barley. But yeah, we need to be strategic. That does not mean that us or me or Unified Grassroots as an organization cannot move ahead and start influencing change, start gathering people, start working towards a referendum. But that's different than the provincial government doing it. I think a lot of groundwork needs to be done before we're ready for it. And I'm not saying 2, 3, 4 years. I'm not trying to push it back. I'm just saying there's going to be a lot needing to be done. And I was talking to Alberta Prosperity Project, not yesterday, I think the day before. Yeah, the day before, about what they're doing and what the tasks that they know that is ahead. They had 12,000 people sign up to volunteer. That's what they're going to need. They're going to need 12,000 people to door knock before a referendum vote occurs, to give the information to the citizens so that they can make an informed vote, because we know the media is likely going to push this fear. Don't vote for it. It's really bad for you. And maybe for some people it might be. Maybe for some people it won't be the most beneficial thing for them. But until the information is gathered, researched, and put out to the voter base, then I don't think we have as much of a chance. And I'm hoping that, like Alberta Institute, they also have the side organization, Saskatchewan Institute. I'm hoping they're going to take the lead on the researching the economic sides of it, what it would look like, what the pensions would look like, what the police force would look like, how much that would cost, all of that, if Saskatchewan was to form its own entity or Alberta to form its own entity. So just so people know, Alberta Prosperity Project was teamed up with Alberta Pension Plan. I think is that what their group is? Let's see. And they've been doing some research already. They're way ahead of us on this. Alberta First Pension, that's what it was. But anyways, I'll share that with you guys after. But I think he's doing a good job here. Like, what if we could get like all of our independence, our PPC? I'm just saying hypothetically, right? What if we got all of our independence? We would have the CPP provincial, like Quebec. They have the QPP. What if we had clear legislation put in place that the federal government can't tell us what to do with our natural resources? What if there was no equalization payment that was stopped? What if there was actual reflected representation in the parliament for the amount of MPs per population? What if that was to all, like, so many things was to be fixed? Maybe it could work, right? We don't know. We don't know if what's likely not going to happen, but we don't know. We can't move ahead and just say we're doing all of this, or the government can't go ahead and say we're doing all of this based on what we think they're going to do. So it has to be put to the table. The negotiation has to happen. That's the first step for the government. That does not mean we don't do the groundwork. We don't do the activism to sway public opinion towards referendum or do that kind of work as an activist organization. And I say we because I'm the president of the biggest conservative organization in Saskatchewan. So it's a big reason why I started this show. Okay, I'm going to go through a few comments. Max Power says, I am most concerned Carney will implement the online harm bill, which they've tried to do twice in CBDC. Yeah, that's probably going to that's probably going to have an effect. It's probably going to come into play. But I'm very, very good at finding different solution to reach what we need to reach. Would it hurt? For sure. But that's even why it's more important. Imagine if we had 20,000 boots on the ground that can make sure every door is knocked, that everyone gets a flyer as to what it would look like before the vote, right? If we can't use it online. And Lisa says, I agree, we need to work hard for a strong base. I have said I would help. Lisa, did you sign up on our website, unifiedgrassroots.com, as a volunteer? Because right now, if you send me a message, I'm just going to send back, go to the website. I'm getting like hundreds of messages in the last couple of days. So I'm never going to remember who messaged me saying they want to help. So you got to go through our website, and then our volunteer coordinator, say what you want to help with, what you're willing to do and stuff. There's like a comment box. So if you want to do that, sign up and say where you're from too. Well, obviously you have to put an address if you're a volunteer, because that's kind of how we organize the base. Charlie Bill says, Alberta has some pretty strong and powerful people who are involved with their mission, and I know they're doing great work. They really do. I had Jeff Rath. He's a part of APP. And he was on my show maybe over a month ago, kind of around the time that the Alberta COVID response report came out. Oh, I missed what David said. Oh, here it is. David says, I'm ready to exit Canada ASAP and would prefer Sask or Alberta as independence. I want nothing to do with Carney's Canada. He's evil. Frank Vaughan has had several videos on Carney's goals for Canada. Yeah, you can read his book too. There's a guy that started making really good content. I didn't save it, but I'll probably play it on some of the other videos. He's like a real estate guy from Ontario, and he did a deep dive into Mark Carney. And it's bad. And that's the thing. He only won because most Canadians know nothing about who he actually is and what his past is. Like that's a reality. There was no time to expose all of that. There was such a short time for the campaign, and the media wouldn't report on it. They kind of give him a pass. Like I would say like 90%, 95, more like 98% a pass. Sometimes they would ask like a harder question. Vasi is one of the ones who does. But unless he was asked questions by alternative media, and that occurred. Okay. Oh, there's a lot of comments. Sorry, I'm gonna pass through a little bit. Will be more police and check stops, 15-minute cities. This is the start. I read his book. It's basically anti-do anything, be poor, own nothing, and you will be happy and like it. Like just right along with the World Economic Forum and the 2030 agenda. It wasn't Sheila says that may have been Moose on the Loose. It wasn't the video I'm talking about, wasn't him. It was a new guy, like a young like guy in a like dress shirt, like buff. I think blonde. Charlie Bow says Benita Peterson is a powerhouse in Alberta. You should get to know her. She's a great lady and she has a wealth of knowledge. She is a powerhouse. I know who she is. And she probably has like the best, like probably one of the people with the best energy that I've ever seen. She's so motivated. She's so passionate, but she's just got like a really great personality. Wayne says Carney won because of voting fraud. Can I get into this subject on YouTube? Anyways, I'm not getting monetized. They denied me again. So might as well, since I'm never going to make money from YouTube. There's something fishy that happened with Pierre Poilievre's riding. There's several things fishy. There was a whole bunch of names on the ballot of people. And if you look, a lot of them got like 40, 50 votes. So a lot of people were probably confused. So probably didn't find Pierre's name and ended up just putting whatever. Like that's a potential that it could have affected it. Now, the other thing, there was like an 82% voting rate. So 82% of eligible voters voted. That has never been that high. It was not that high last election. It was not that high any other election, and not even in any other riding. So I find that shocking. The average is like 67%. Maybe like a riding like that's like a stronghold, but not necessarily. Well, then again, like conservative was a stronghold there for the last like what 20 years. Sarah Cross says, do we actually think he had enough votes to win, or was it triggered? See, the thing is though, in Canada, we don't have the Dominion voting system, not for the federal election. It's still by written ballot. However, I don't know how the early voting or the vote by mail was. Someone had posted that there was like 7.4 million vote by mail. That's not true. The 7.4 million are people who showed up at the voting booth on the early dates that it was open and available. Wayne says, hi, the Independence Party of Alberta has been promoting separation for years and getting no support. Now everyone wants to separate. I'll explain why, Wayne. When you see movements, and I've fallen prey to that, like I've gotten dragged into some of that in the past. when you see movements on issues, there will often be people who will form a political party to try to tackle that issue within government. And like it happened in Saskatchewan, there's the Buffalo Party, there's the Sask United Party. I'm sure there's more in Alberta. When you see that happen, the really pissed off people will likely join. But the majority of people that are not happy with it, but are not willing to risk an NDP government or a left-leaning government, are not willing to go full on board with something new. It's very rare that it happens. This is not just Canada. This is the US, similar thing. Now, just because they have that entity does not mean that there isn't anything we can do with the current government to put pressure on political change. And that's one of the things we realized as an organization, not right away. We were kind of late figuring that out. And we were pulled into some of these avenues. And then we realized it's so much easier. If you have the big numbers, it's so much easier to work within the current government that you have. Like if you have big numbers, you can influence a ton of change. And that's what happened with Take Back Alberta. That's what's happening with Alberta Prosperity Project. They know they have the numbers. So now they have to recognize that in the next election, they're going to be facing 200,000 people that will be getting directed by this organization in one way, shape, or form. And that's the same thing here in Saskatchewan. Like we organized grassroots, got involved in several nomination race, supported several candidates that fit the same values as our organization. We tried to get some of our people into government. Same thing with school boards. We got involved in a lot of school board race and we got a lot of them elected as well. So you can start something new or you can work with the current machine. And I know a lot of people will say, well, that's not possible. It's not effective. They have blueprint. They have things to stop it. If you have the numbers, there's not much that you can stop it. And this is something I've been like talking about publicly. Our democratic system has ways to deal with authoritarian government. When enough people are pissed off, there are ways to actually change government. And I did a tweet back in February about this. And I'll find it. And it's being shared now by everyone. It was how to get rid of Doug Ford as the leader of the Conservative Party that's currently in power in Ontario. Doug Ford went like full on war on Poilievre, probably hurt the election. He's probably one of the reasons we have a Liberal government, because so many people were probably influenced. I heard this. Now this can be rumored. It's not like I can't say this for sure happened, but I have heard that even some of his people were helping the Liberal candidate who was running against Pierre Poilievre. But anyways, that's a rumor. Maybe I shouldn't have said it because I don't have direct confirmation, but some people have said. And I'm trying to find it. Anyways, this thread, I go through how to get rid of Doug Ford as leader of the party, not how to get the other parties to win, how to get rid of Doug Ford. And I go through their constitution, I take screenshots of it and I post it and I explain the things that are needed. They need about 43,000 people in Ontario to get rid of Doug Ford. And they have to be in specific area, but that's not that many people for Ontario. So, oh, sorry, I'm missing so many comments. Oh gosh, I'm gonna scroll down because I won't be able to get through all of that. Wayne Lustel says there are about 6 separation parties in Alberta. We had some of them at the TIP AGM. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like if if you can get all those people to stop for a second and think, okay, maybe our party's not the avenue. Let's figure out how do we influence this change even more. And you get them all together and show up at like an AGM, like a a UCP AGM and get policies passed that you want. Like, that's how you influence change. And this has always happened in the US. The US citizens are so involved in their election. When they have a nomination race, some of you might not even know what that is. That's a race that occurs to pick your candidate who's going to be on the ballot for the political party. In the US, they have 30 or 40% of the population that show up. They join a party, they say they're a Republican or a Democrat, and they show up and vote for who's going to be on the ballot to represent them. We get something similar here in Canada. It's called nomination races. So, but less than 1% show up to vote. Like, you literally have a couple hundred people choose who the next MP is going to be. Or like, and MP might be a little bit more because the riding's a little bit bigger, but provincially there's been some nomination races that were decided by a couple hundred people. When you think about it, like, that's insane. So you want a government that reflects you, go vote in a nomination race. Okay. Wayne says, someone says the 51st, Alberta 51st. Concord says that. Is that the Alberta 51st flag you have on your profile? The quoted owl says, Carney is just ugly Trudeau that loves central control, being a central banker, so it's laughable. Pauline says the convoy was proof of that. Sorry, I can't remember what I was talking about that you would have been commenting that for. Wayne says, I don't want to be a colony or 51st state. I like being a republic. So basically, like, its own government that has like a constitution and a republic, similar to the US, if I'm understanding that correctly. Brenda says, isn't a party a public education group on how to get involved with provincial and civic government? No, a party has different rules. What you're describing, I would say, like a nonprofit organization or an activist organization. Political parties have always their wanting to get elected clouding their work towards the movement or the change or the issue. That's why they'll even critique people who are doing things that go along with some of the stuff they advocate for. They'll still critique them. That always clouds it. And I've seen that happen over and over with movements, where you'll have a movement, a group that will grow, and all of a sudden the leader or the people in it say, I'm going to run for politics. And then it all starts getting attack, not working with the current government. So, and I can't say I haven't like fallen prey to some of that a little bit, even myself with, she's saying TBA isn't a party. That is, no, Take Back Alberta is not a political party. Take Back Alberta is an organization that gathers boots on the ground to influence the current government. They're a nonpartisan sort of organization. However, they did do a bit of work that would fall into third party because they were kind of doing advertisement that help. It's a little bit complicated, but you have to, if you're a nonprofit organization, or a charitable, more like nonprofit, you have to somewhat, you can fight for issues, but not necessarily like pick a party per se. Like, if you look at our nonprofit organization, well, we'll talk to issues. We can say which one would be better. And I mean, my show is completely separate from that, so it doesn't really fall on that. I can say I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative. I can even say that. Even they can say it. If they're a conservative values, it doesn't mean, because sometimes you have 2 or 3 political parties that are conservative. Charlie Bow says, oh, that's too long. I can't read it. Brenda says, why didn't PP speak up about the changes in his district? Oh my gosh, I just realized how many comments I'm behind. We'll never get through this information. I agree. He should have said something. But then I don't know if you've noticed, Pierre's never really played the role of poor me, I'm a victim. And I'm not saying if he had brought it up, it would be that, but the media would have twisted it as that. He doesn't use his circumstances to kind of show people like I don't know if you know, but his dad is gay, and he doesn't use that to fight back against the people that he say he's not pro LGBTQ. He doesn't use the fact that his child has disability. It came out recently, but that's like 6 years later. It's just not who he is. The quoted Al says, "It's a chat full of energy. Don't worry about keeping up. Just do your best," I'd say. Well, I gotta get through the content. Okay, let's go through a little bit more content. Let's see. Okay, I haven't watched this video yet, so I'm gonna be watching it with you guys. But this post was shared by the NDP, so we know it's gonna be good. Let's have a listen.
Would you vote to leave? Would you vote to stay?
It is my job to put a question.
In case you didn't hear, would you vote to leave or would you vote to stay?
Would you vote to leave? Would you vote to stay?
It is my job to put a question to the people of Saskatchewan. If people in Saskatchewan trigger the legislation for a plebiscite, it's the job of the government then to formulate a question for the people of Saskatchewan. Now, you're getting way over your skis with respect to what that process might be or what that process might entail.
Can you not say, or should you not say, that under no circumstances will we ever support separation? That's the question I think a lot of people are wondering about, is why not just simply say that?
Listen, what the discussion today is about a path to whatever that discussion might be.
Would you vote to leave? Would you vote to stay?
So he can't say, no, we will never separate, because if that's what the people want, then that's what government has to do. Government gets elected by the people. A plebiscite is a lot of people. A plebiscite is, so for those of you who don't know what it is, or plebiscite, I guess I've been saying it wrong all this time. A plebiscite is almost like a referendum. It's a vote that's put to the public. It can be initiated several ways. It can be initiated by the government. It can be initiated by a ministry or a group of people, and it can be initiated by the citizens. So we, the people, can sign a petition requesting for a plebiscite. If we get the required amount of numbers, which is 15% of the voter base, and if we go based on the last election's number, that would be like just over 122,000. I'm going to use 125,000 just to be safe, just in case there's bad ones. So what happens if you get that petition signed and you get 125,000 people, you bring it to the minister in charge of dealing with it, and then that minister within 12 months has to put a vote to the public on what that plebiscite request is. So it'll be a specific question. So the petition will have the specific question that we want to put to the public. That's why we can't start the petition right now. We don't even know what that question, how exactly should it be worded? Because the way you word this can very much change the direction that people will go to vote. So, so Scott Moe has obviously looked into this, which is good. I don't know when he looked into it, but I looked into it a couple of days ago, or maybe like 4 or 5 days ago, when I saw what APP was doing, and I'm like, we need to do the same thing in Saskatchewan. And I look, what is our legislation? So I like to do that kind of stuff. Not a lot of people will actually go and look into the legislation and read it and understand it. I do, because I used to work in federal government, and that was like my first, I guess, official real job, if you want to call it a real job. I don't know. And then I became a RCMP officer, and I dealt with legal documents all the time. And Yeah, Brenda says the Clarity Act says it must be a clear question. So there's a lot of things that need to occur, and it has to be done very strategically and very carefully. It's not just something like, oh, there's a petition on change.org that Joe Blow started, and I'm not pointing to any specific thing. I'm just saying randomly that he's going to want to do a plebiscite, but then the wording for the question is not even included in there. Like they're just saying, I want a referendum. So now in Saskatchewan, we don't have an option for we the people to ask for a referendum per se. It's only the government that can ask for a referendum. Now, we the people can pressure the government to hold a referendum. You can do that so many ways. You can email, call your MLA. You can join your constituency association board. You can get a party membership. And that's in any party. It can be, and your area might be an NDP party. So I don't know many of you would do that, but you can. And you can show up at the convention. Now, another thing that can bring a citizen-led referendum would be to have legislation pass that would give that avenue. Instead of a plebiscite, it would be a referendum. I forgot to mention why a referendum is different than a plebiscite. It's similar. It's still a vote to the people. A referendum is binding. The government has to do what the people agreed to or voted on if the numbers are met. A plebiscite does not have any binding. They don't have to do anything. They do have to respond to it, but they don't have to change legislation or bring on the change that was voted on. That's the difference. It's just a legislation that gives a voice to the plebs. I think that's why it's called a plebiscite, but maybe not. I don't know. If you guys know, let me know. But I didn't even know what that word was. So Brenda says in Alberta, you need a physical petition with a certain percentage of eligible voters to have a referendum. Yeah, Alberta, it's actually easier than Saskatchewan. Jonathan says, I still see those COVID health warnings paper taped to the doors everywhere. That's right. So many people haven't removed them yet, eh? Okay, let's see what other video I've got. But what I don't understand, like Scott Moe knows they're going to be asking him all of these questions. Why doesn't he have a team prepare him ahead of time so that he's already ready for the response? Like obviously Carney lost, separation momentum is building in Alberta, it's building in Saskatchewan. He should have been ready to go with a proper response. Like whoever is advising him, they're probably going to be watching this show. Someone's watching this show because they know I had been talking to Preston Manning about separation last week. But and David says 177,000 signatures in Alberta in 120 days. Definitely doable. This needs to get on their council election in October. And Dylan says, Mo, let my people go. I just realized right now what you're doing. Are you the Moses or are you Jacob? Is it Jacob that was speaking for Moses at first? Okay, next video. It's a question. When was this? Yesterday. Okay. I don't know what the question is.
What do you think about Western separatism, those sentiments with this election result? What do you think will happen with those sentiments in the country?
Well, I just maybe remove the word Western, and separatist sentiments have been present in Canada for decades. In fact, we saw yet again over 20 separatist MPs elected from the province of Quebec. I think when you go into Quebec, the Separatist Party is probably leading or first or second in the polls provincially. And so having actual people run on separation platforms is not new to Canadian politics in any way. We've seen it for decades coming from the province of Quebec. What I see right now in Saskatchewan is more a feeling of alienation and more a feeling of we just want to be treated fairly in Confederation. We want to be consulted with the policies that are coming forward and that are going to impact our industries, our jobs in this province. Industries that are creating wealth and are, as I say, producing some of the most sustainable products on earth. And so I am of the view, certainly I have not in any way given up on Saskatchewan, very much being a part and a productive part of the Confederation of Canada, the nation of Canada. We're going to find out very soon whether the Prime Minister, or more importantly, the breadth of his cabinet and caucus, what their views are on Saskatchewan's role moving forward, and whether they're willing to change their approach with respect to how they deal with not only the provincial government in Saskatchewan, but more broadly the people.
Sorry, I got distracted. I was even listening, so I can't even comment on it. If I'm honest, I got distracted because Sheldon Carter says, "We the people can't for a referendum." Really? Then what is this? So obviously you haven't read the entire thing. I just went through the entire explanation. We can vote, but we can't bring on a referendum. What we can bring on is a plebiscite, which is different. It's non-binding. So if you read the actual legislation, you will see the only people who can bring on a referendum, and the term referendum is the provincial government. So what we can do, though, is a petition to have a plebiscite, which is similar, but not the same thing, because it's non-binding. The government doesn't have to do what the people vote for them to do. Now, does it create political pressure? It does, but it's different than Alberta. Alberta, they have a petition for a referendum, which we don't. We can't, we the people can't vote to bring that on. We can vote for a question to be asked, but it's not a referendum. I hope that makes sense. And if you don't understand, I highly suggest you read the entire document, because I did. I also downloaded into a chat GPT the document and asked it a ton of questions as well, just so I had a full understanding of what it meant. The Quoted Owl says, "I want a West Block of provinces that separate and really mess with the," I'm not going to use that word, "people in the East. I know my poutines will taste better, Quebec." David, don't kick him out. Just because he used a bad word. Dylan says, "Should we call our new land Nouveau Canada or Rupert's Republic? What's Rupert's Republic? What's the meaning behind that?" Oh, Max Power said a comment too. Yes, I remember saying that, and then I got distracted by just checking what that comment was referring to. I was thinking maybe there was a different legislation that I hadn't seen, but it's the same legislation. But Max Powell says, "Great response. There's an obvious double standard where Quebec separatism doesn't make you a traitor, but apparently Western separatism does make you one." Classic liberal logic. It's so true. They need to say, did you have an issue with Quebec doing that? How many times have they interviewed the Bloc Québécois? David says, "Yep, Quebec is Teflon. We are just traitors." David, it's actually cool because when I show your comments, your little mod, your little wrench actually shows up in the comment. Oh, there's so many comments. Richard says, "We were Rupert's land." Oh, really? I guess I should know that. So just to give you guys a an idea why I don't. The history that I learned going to school in New Brunswick, because that's where I was raised, was very much French Acadian focus. So we learned a lot about the wars between the English and the French and the suppressions of the Acadian people, how they lived. That we we didn't learn a whole ton of history on that, but I did learn some of the Rupert's history, I guess, when I was RCMP, because we did learn about it. It's just a depot. I just blocked that whole 6 months out of my mind. Oh, that was tough training. It was tough because I had a daughter at home that I really missed. So, and it was a lot of hours. So, and I would cram it all during the week so that I could go home and see my daughter, even if it was just for one day. And drive 3.5 hours to North Battleford or whatever, how much it was, 3.5 hours back. The things you do as a mom. I'm hoping we're gonna start seeing more videos like that. I wish Scott Moe's team would post stuff like that. This was posted by Rebel News. He should grab those videos. CPAC's the one who released it. He should grab that and post it to his account. Okay. Now, let's talk Alberta. Daniel Smith. Okay, this video is from CPAC's website, so it looks a little bit different. I basically was told just listen to the last 5 minutes. Daniel Smith is really strong in this. It's more than 5 minutes. It's like 9 minutes, but we're probably not going to listen to the entire thing. I will put it at faster speed, but here, here is what she said. Oh, I forgot to share it with you guys.
Rick Bell, Post Media.
Good morning, Premier. Riddle me this one. How confident are you that the new Prime Minister will listen to you, given the following facts? One, he is still in favor of the emissions cap. Two, he said he's not going to repeal Bill C-69. Three, when he was asked in Calgary by yours truly to make a commitment that his energy corridor would include pipelines,
That's a long
oil
question.
and gas pipelines, and LNG, and he would not commit. At that same news conference, he dismissed your 9 demands in a single sentence, saying he had his own plans, and he still has many of the Trudeau team people who have, let's just say, disappointed Alberta in the past with their views, including your
I forgot to make it
personal
faster.
friend, Stephen Guilbeault. So how you
you
confident
can't
are
on
you,
this.
given all of those facts that we know so far?
It depends very much on whether we have pragmatic Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney as our Prime Minister, or whether we have environmental extremist
Squirrel nuts.
keep it in the
Hi.
ground,
He says
phase
opinion
out fossil
commentary
fuels,
question.
author of the book Values, Mark Carney as Prime Minister. And I don't know the answer to that yet. I don't think Canadians know the answer to that yet, because as I continue to point out, he said different things to different people in different parts of the province or country in different languages. So we won't really know until we see the decisions he's making for cabinet. We won't really know until I've had an opportunity to speak with him, which I will be this week. And so we'll do a readout of that conversation, and I'll be able to tell you then.
And the supplementary question, I kind of find it funny that a few weeks ago, everybody thought even the possibility of somebody getting enough signatures for a referendum on Alberta independence was just the work of a few yahoos. And now, obviously, people are very serious about it now. That being said, since the election, and you saw the returns as much as I did, and the overwhelming Conservative vote, what have you heard, and what have your MLAs heard about the mood out there in Alberta with regards to the election of the Carney Liberal government? What are they hearing? What feedback are you hearing? What feedback are they hearing from people, especially on this Alberta file?
I think it's split. There's lots of people sending me texts and emails saying, give it a chance, do what you can, put forward your policies, see if the different leadership makes a difference, see if we can mend the country together, see if we can find a way to have them change course on some of the bad policies of his predecessor. And let's try to make it work. Let's try to make Canada aspirationally what people wanted. People during this election wanted a Team Canada and a Canada First approach that supported every region, supported every province in its aspirations. So give that a chance. That's one side. And the other side is we're fed up that we have been targeted for the last 10 years with aggressive policy to keep our energy resources, our substantial energy resources in the ground. The reason we send so much of our products to the United States is that it's easier to build pipelines going south than it is east, west, and north. And it shouldn't be that way. And we're fed up. So I'm hearing both camps. And so we'll be having a caucus meeting tomorrow where I'm going to be able to hear directly from each of my MLAs to see if they're hearing the same things I am. But I think my job is to try to do what I can. I put on the table the 9 issues that I think will reset the relationship with Alberta. I will be talking with the Prime Minister and making our case very, very clearly about what it is that we think we need to do to reset and be that energy powerhouse. And I'll gauge the result based on his actions. And we'll know pretty quickly whether or not he's going to make some movement on those things.
Thank you. And we'll go to James now in the back.
No, it's 5 minutes.
Premier, I'm just wondering do you have a breaking point where you would then consider independence?
I would always allow for citizens to put forward their own ideas about what they think our path forward should be. I've put forward my ideas of what I think the path forward should be. It's the Alberta Sovereignty within a United Canada Act. It's affirming our Constitution. It is doing the kind of advocacy that we have, doing the legal challenges that we have, and engaging in diplomacy and trying to figure out if we can find a pathway. I did that in my very first conversation with Mark Carney's predecessor, and I will do the same thing with him. That's my job to do. And I'll over the summer, I'll be intending to, I mentioned this as well, that I'll be intending to do a what's next conversation and panel, travel the province, hear from people, see if there's other things that I'm not thinking of that they'd like us to do. But at the moment, I'm focused on those 9 issues that I raised and seeing if we can get some kind of repeal or accommodation to make sure that we really can start attracting investment to our province again.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyways, those are really good response, but at the same time, I think the question is, were you shocked? But I like that she's saying, look, it's the people has a voice. Whether I want it or not, or like it or not, it doesn't change the fact that the people have a voice. Edmonton, I hope so. Jonathan Grant says, I hope so. Edmonton needs a new mayor too. I have no idea how so he won. All I saw was signs and stuff for the runner-up. Yeah, sometimes it makes you wonder, eh? You don't want to go in the it's rigged category, but sometimes you're like, what? Do really that many people vote for this person? It's hard not to go in that category. Okay. Now, why would people want... Oh, I just realized it's the wrong... There you go. Marty up North posted this a couple of days ago. The Maritime provinces, which is funny because New Brunswick doesn't really look like what New Brunswick looks like. It's like missing some stuff. But, or is it? I think that word is wrong. Give me 1 second. Maritime. Yeah, it's New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PEI. It's the Atlantic provinces. I think it includes Newfoundland as well. But New Brunswick is not completely in there. At least it doesn't look like that. So whoever did that, is not the full picture. Anyways, sorry I get distracted by small details like that. The Maritime provinces have 2.46 million people. They have 32 federal seats. Those are MPs. Alberta has 4.4 million people. They have 37 federal seats. Each voter in Atlantic Canada has 55% more representation than Alberta. I'm curious what the numbers are for Saskatchewan. Let's see. Let's ask Grok, how many MPs are in Sask? 14. So Saskatchewan has 14. I'm just looking. The Saskatchewan population is 1.250. So that's exactly half. It's 16. And we have 14. So that amount of people with that amount of seats, if we were to compare the exact population, Saskatchewan should have 16 seats, but instead they have 14. Not as big of a difference as Alberta, but still. Yeah, Dylan says we have too few seats for our split. Brenda says definitely far too few seats. Elected justices too. Okay, what else do I got here? This is another map that was really interesting. It's the voting behavior of different provinces. So Northwest Territories went 100% Liberal. Did they not have Conservative candidates up there? Or they just didn't get any vote? Nunavut went NDP. Huh. Prince Edward Island went 100%. I have a hard time believing that. Does it mean like the seats? I'm just trying to read to see what it says. Maybe the seat? Jonathan Grant. I don't know. Is it grand or grande? Like a grande latte. That was Italian. Are you Italian? And so it's just the seats. So Saskatchewan had 93%. Saskatchewan last election went all blue. I think it's the north that went red. Dylan Real says something interesting. He says the map is suspicious when you realize Polymarket polling was tampered with. Sorry, a comment came and it scrolled up. A flood of Chinese money. Okay, Jonathan says silent E, but the name's originally French. Okay, Grand. I'm going to say it in French. Jonathan Grand. Grand Jonathan. Big Jonathan. That's what it means, right? Big. Or with the E at the end. Is that the feminine version? Gosh, I haven't really done much French lately. Brenda's leaving. Everyone say bye to Brenda. She's going to bed. It is late, especially if we're in Saskatchewan. Okay, let's see what else we got. That's Scott Mo's profile. I was doing some research. Now, this was another interesting thing. In BC, I had a conversation. So this is the results for BC. Mostly all blue for the entire province, and then the cities are red. When I was at the watch party, the CPC watch party Monday night, I had a conversation with a guy he's worked with the Conservative Party. He's worked in Ottawa and he's on conservative boards, but he said the divide in politics is not between left and right. It's between city folks and rural folks. And I sat down and realized why. City folks are used to the government providing so many different things. City folks have like public transportation. They have like garbage comes right to their door to pick up their garbage. They have water provided, septic, everything is provided that makes their life easy is pretty much like provided by the cities, by the government. So there's this expectation and this acceptance that government's going to do everything for me mentality. And of course I'm generalizing it, but when you think about rural folks, which I'm considered rural, we don't have pipes that transport water to our house. We have a well and it's bad water. So we have to have a filtration system, a reverse osmosis system to make it even like usable. And a couple weeks ago, our pump broke. So we have like a pump that increases the pressure so we can filter enough water for our use. And so for like 2 weeks, and it was on back order for like 2 weeks, I had like gross like well water that smells like rotten eggs that has like a yellow tint. It's like super high in like soluble, so it's got a lot of iron. And I mean, it's still okay, but and we've got a septic pump out. In rural folks, you can have either a field or a pump out. And one winter it froze, and and Jonathan had to go in there to figure out why it was frozen. And because the backfilling wasn't fully done, there wasn't as much insulation, so the pump, the intake that pumps out, not the pump itself, but just the pipe had frozen solid. So we're used to fending for ourselves. We're used to depending on our neighbors. If we have like a break-in, we don't like we call police, but we know they're not going to come and help for like 45 minutes. So we call police and then we call our neighbors, and our neighbors show up first before police do. So it's a very different mentality living in the rural community. And if you look at the voting habits, the people who want more government to provide more programs, more assistance, more basically socialism are people who live in the city. And then the people who live in the country, that you could say the same thing for like northern Saskatchewan. These northern communities are provided a lot of assistance by the government, which has that same mentality. The government's going to take care of me. When you look at the First Nations community, the government's going to give me money. The government's going to provide everything I need. And that's not a diss. It's just a reality. And but then you look at rural communities, they're like, I don't want the government in my home. I don't want to have to pay for the government to do all of these things for all these other people when I'm like out here struggling. Of course, I'm like generalizing it, but you guys know what I mean. It's not left versus right. It's belief government should take care of you, or you should take care of yourself. And it's city versus rural. The Quitted Owl says the government is good and knows what's best for you. The basic own nothing and be happy agenda in controlling every facet of your life. David says, I watched a YouTube video earlier. A lady was talking about Carney's book, and in it, he said something to the effect, homeowners are disposable. Wow, he hates us. We are in his way. Well stated, Richard says. Wow, we have a lot of people watching. We have 1,300 people watching live right now. I don't know why. But anyways, this map was interesting. Let's see what else I've got. Danielle Smith takes Ottawa to court, challenging its Clean Energy Regulations Act. This was like a clip by mainstream media. I'm not going to play. I use this to let you know that she's doing this. I keep feeling like I have a cough. I'm not sick, but okay. We have a few more videos. Oh, this is not a video, it's a post. And I want to bring it up. And I haven't looked into this. I haven't studied it. I think I should. It's on my list of things to do. But this is a letter from Chief Billy Joe Tuccaro and Chief Sheldon Sunshine, so Mikisew Cree First Nation and Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation. He's saying, you are attempting to manufacture a national unity crisis by enabling a referendum on separatism and a fanatical cell of individuals at the exact moment when Canadians need to unite against Donald Trump's America. Oh, I hadn't read this, but the province of Alberta is on treaty lands. Please be advised that your irresponsible statement and actions are in breach of Treaty Number 6, 7, and 8. We demand that you immediately stand down from this conduct. Our treaties are sacred covenants and are to last forever. Alberta did not exist when our ancestors agreed to share the land with the Crown. The provinces had no authority or supersede or interfere with our treaties, even indirectly by passing the buck to a citizen referendum. If you or any Canadians are not happy living on treaty land, they are free to apply for citizenship elsewhere. Sincerely. I'm going to look into it. Has anyone done a breakdown of this? If what they're saying is basically no one should have an election, no one should have a say in government or doing anything, it should be the First Nation that should decide everything for the country of Canada because it's their treaty land. I don't know. I'm not buying it. Lisa Henderson says, I heard they only have about 1.3% of the land. Yeah, that's the reserve. But you know how there's been like that push of recognizing that the land is theirs. It's from the woke like Marxist agenda. And I'm not saying they don't have legitimacy for some of their claims for like land title claims. I'm not saying that they don't have that. But to try to stop the democratic processes we have in this country, to me, I think this is, you know what this is going to create? It's going to create a bunch of animosity with and racism. I think it's going to bring on more racism towards First Nations people. But, and I'm just going to clarify too, like put all my cards on the table. I am part Indigenous. I'm not Métis because I can't use that term. I'm part Indigenous from New Brunswick. That's why I have like exotic look to myself. But yeah, it's interesting to see. I wanted to share that. I also had a lady comment on my Facebook something similar when I posted about the referendum. But hers was a little bit different in the sense she says we should be consulted on this, as in, and which I fully support. If we as an organization are trying to represent a voice of the entire province and we want to answer the questions and concerns that people may have, if we want to help form an image of what it would look like for separation, I don't think we should ignore the First Nations people and their communities. I think we should find out, okay, why are you concerned about this? Like, what do you think it's going to do to that will make your life worse? Like, has the federal government actually been treating you good? Like, have you guys been thriving? Or do you think maybe you could grab even more autonomy in your natural resources development and in so many different things? So while I'm not saying I'm going to let that stop the referendum, I do think we should figure out what the concerns and questions are of everyone, including the First Nations people in Saskatchewan. We have a very big percentage of First Nations community. I want to know, personally, I want to know, okay, what would be your concerns? What are the things you're more worried about? What are the things you would love to have if that what would this look like for you to be something you would vote for, kind of thing? And I don't think we should be saying, hey, no, they don't have a voice. And while people can say, well, they have a vote, if we're going to do town halls throughout Saskatchewan to reach out to the public, I would hope that some of them would come to the town halls and let us know their concerns. Daniel, oh, there's so many comments. Yeah, Lisa Henderson says, I agree. We need to come up with a plan that will not leave anybody behind. And I mean, if like there's so many concerns that are like, I'm not saying talking about that subject anymore, but if there's so many concerns that people have, if it moves ahead with this, like, and those are never addressed, like if those questions are never answered, these are going to be very motivated, very full of anger people. So I always think the best solutions, the best answers is when you bring like all of the different stakeholders to the table and express like all of your concerns and then come up with the best solution that addresses a lot of it. And a lot of time those concerns are just misperceptions. Dylan says new treaty. Carney plans on leaving. David says Carney plans on leaving us all behind. Lightning Rod says, didn't we just have the most exciting election this country has ever had? I don't know what you did click on. Was there a link? For some reason, some of the comments are, oh, it's because I'm still showing. Until we're all treated the same, there will be prejudice and racism. Let's all be Saskatchewan people. Many government push this to create division. I agree. So if we're going to ask for the concerns of the regular public, we should ask for concerns of the First Nation community as well. Jonathan says it could be an opportunity for the First Nation renegotiate and get a better deal, something that'll help the community and not just tie everything up with bureaucracy. David says, I grew up all over the north, Manitoba, Alberta, BC, yellow. Yellowknife in Northwest Territory, or YT. What is that? Yukon is Yukon YT? It's getting late. Lived with natives most of my first 30 years. I have no sympathy, and I am not racist. I know. Okay, we're gonna get into a sensitive subject here. I've lived in First Nations community. I lived up north in Laloche. I saw a lot. I saw a really broken community. Was there glimpse of really good stuff? Yeah, the people there were fantastic. Were some of the nicest people that I've met. But there was so much violence, so much sexual abuse. There was so much like darkness. But we can't think for a second that the country and the government doesn't have some form of a not responsibility, but that they haven't taken some type of a play into creating that environment. And what I'm talking about is the residential schools. And I'm not talking about the graves or anything like that. Take that aside. Whatever your opinion on that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the treatment that people got. The fact that they came and took people's children away from them and send them to school. And they couldn't stop it. They couldn't fight back. They couldn't stop it. And then you had entire communities with no children. I'm a mom. If somebody was to come and take all my kids, it would destroy me. I would probably start drinking. I would probably get really depressed. And if the government did it, I would feel so helpless. We have to recognize that that has had generational effects on entire communities and an entire group of people. You don't recover from that overnight. You don't recover from that in a generation. You had a bunch of kids who didn't know how to be parents themselves because they were never parented themselves. They were like parented in schools, and that's not parenting. We're all against like the government controlling the kids, right? Because we know the negative effects it has when it turns against the family. So I don't know. I think we need to recognize that and understand that a lot of these people didn't have the opportunities we had. And that's just a reality. And I say that as someone who has lived and worked in those communities when I was a police officer. Like when you see children 2 a.m. running around the middle of the street in a dirty diaper, and you're thinking, oh, this is like a social services call. That's what it would be in like Saskatoon or in like a different type of community. But in Laloche, this was like normal. Like, it was such a culture shock when I got there. I'm like, "Where's social services?" They're like, "No, the child is fine. It's got his 8-year-old sibling with him. Doesn't matter if it's 2:30 in the morning." And that's just a reality. So we have to recognize that there is a lot of different nuances that we might not all completely understand. A lot. I missed some of the comments. Someone said, "I like what Al suggested, the approach," but I didn't see it. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, quoted Al says, "I like the idea of a Western PM of Canada and an Eastern PM, though and they duel, and whatever wins is the one true leader. Okay, that's funny. Oh. David says, I think Indigenous would do better with a provincial government, like if it wasn't like federal. We do know we do know the federal government has completely failed them over and over again. And I've witnessed that myself, working and living in First Nations community. The court system like, is just like a classic example. You would have like a victim of domestic abuse almost killed. We'd do everything. We'd manage to get witness statements, which is really hard, or witness interview, which is really hard in northern communities because they don't trust the police because of the history that comes with what the residential school, and just like in the community, like policing like 20 30 years ago, they it wasn't what, like the expectation was much lower compared to what it is now. But anyways, the court system, you would have the accused who's almost killed her, who's now coming back in contact with her. So we arrest him again because there's another incident, and we're trying to get him locked up because we're afraid he's going to actually kill her next time. She's got like jaw wired shut, and the court system just released him over and over again. And it ended up being stayed because the victim didn't want charges because she's in that cycle of abuse. We had witness statement. We didn't need the victim to give a statement. You would never see that happen in a court in Saskatchewan when you had all that evidence. And that's just reality. The court system are so inundated in the northern community. I was so like discouraged for this woman when that happened. They don't have like the resources to accommodate the amount of trauma and violence that occurs there, like the shelters for women. It's there's so much. Anyways, I have a huge heart for the First Nation. Again, I met some really amazing people there. Lightning Rod says, I worked all across the Northern Passage going into small communities to prop up the electrical grid. Joanne Mary says, isn't there a lot of money thrown at the band leaders? I also heard at 18, each person gets $20,000 4 times a year. No, some bands might. It depends if they've had like if there was like an agreement signed over like minerals or whatever, and they got like this big payment. Some of the bands will put that money aside, and then it's almost like a trust, and then the band members get a certain amount of money, but not every reserves has that. It doesn't come from the federal government. It would come from some type of legal issue or battle that would have occurred or won, or maybe they have like pipelines going through or things like that. It's like it's not just from the federal government. Now, is there I'm just realizing I'm still pushing some comments there. Oh, I missed one. How do I hide current comment? Okay, there you go. Wayne is going to bed. It's too late. Good night, Wayne. He says, I hope we can move forward as quickly as possible and stop the abuse from the feds, Ontario, and Quebec. Laura Lynn says, agreed, Wayne J. Good night. Max Power says, I think it's a general Liberal problem. Most of the money the Liberals spend seems to disappear in a black hole, never to be seen again. See arrive can, green slush. It wouldn't shock me, right, at all, that money that's supposed to go like to dealing with the clean drinking water and such. Okay, let's see. I'm almost done. Lindell TV is reporting on what's happening in Alberta. I met the team when I was at CPAC. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith isn't holding back. Her government just lowered the threshold needed to trigger a referendum on Alberta separatism down from 600,000 to just 170,000 signatures. Albertans are proud Canadian, but we will no longer tolerate having our industries threatened and our resource landlocked by Ottawa. Leighton Gray revealed that Alberta representatives recently met with members of the U.S. Department who reportedly expressed support for Alberta's right to self-determination and a willingness to engage with an independent Alberta. A referendum is expected in 2025. A little birdie told me that the Trump and U.S. government does not want Alberta to join the U.S., but they're willing to work with an independent country. So there was no thirst for it, let's just say. So that's what I heard. But interesting that they're reporting on this. I think Americans in the last year have reported more on Canada than in the last 50 years. So yeah, that's the same thing. She's announced that. So in Saskatchewan, the only thing, again, we have is a plebiscite. I'm going to see what else I got here. I guess this was a question. Already going quite late. We're an hour and 30 minutes. So I don't want it to be too late. So I'm going to share one last thing, which is what our organization is doing. Let's see if I share it this way. So this is our website. Yes, there's 2 donate buttons. I know. I don't know how to remove one of them. I don't know how it got there. I was playing around the website yesterday and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm waiting for and there was so much pressure to get this out there. And so I have someone looking at it tomorrow. We're going to be getting rid of that donate button. But and we have 20 signatures so far. We haven't even talked about it yet. So this is interesting. But this is our version in Saskatchewan of the Alberta Prosperity petition registration that they have. So I'm going to clarify, this is not signing the petition for a plebiscite. And it's explained in there. I'll scroll down so you guys can see it. It's gathering all of the people who are willing to sign it. We're going to start working on gathering, organizing. Once we have the amount of people or surpass the amount of people, then we will be doing the efforts to do the petition to get a plebiscite. So anyways, I'll read it for you guys. And if you want to sign it, if you're from Saskatchewan and you want to sign this, I highly recommend you do so. If you're from Alberta Prosperity Project, let's share their website. It's this, you just Google Alberta Prosperity Project and they have this big, oh, that's changed. It wasn't there earlier. It used to be way at the bottom here, but they've added the big blue one. Register your intent to sign yes on a referendum on Alberta sovereignty today. And this is ours. We talked to APP. It's very similar with the wording and stuff. We just had to change it to apply to what we have. So we're basically saying we want a referendum, but in Saskatchewan, and I've already explained this on the show, so I'm not going to go a whole bunch of details into it. We don't have a citizen-initiated referendum. We have a citizen-initiated plebiscite. I just noticed there's an error on that. I don't know how it didn't pick it up. I'll go back and change it later. So yeah, we have a citizen. There's a little R there. We can't do a referendum. We can do a plebiscite, which is similar. It's a vote put to the people. And on a specific question. We have to figure out what that question is when we're doing the petition. That's why the petition's not happening today. It's not happening tomorrow. We're going to gather all the people who are willing to sign it, and then we're going to go to the people to get the signatures. But again, we're not ready for that question. We need to do these town halls to figure out what all the questions are that needs answered so that we can have like the best possible question going forward for our province. So, and it's similar to Alberta Prosperity Project. They're gathering the people who are unhappy with how Alberta's been treated. They want sovereignty. Maybe they want separatism. Maybe they want the 51st state. We're going to gather all of those people too. And then we're going to move forward depending how it goes to see what avenue it's going to take. And again, it's not going to be me that's going to decide. It's not going to be our board. It's going to basically be the membership. So the plan, once we have over 125,000 eligible voters who support Saskatchewan sovereignty and are registered for the plebiscite petition, we will present a petition for approval. Once approved, canvassers will begin the official signature collection process. What else can you do? So because Saskatchewan doesn't have the same thing as Alberta, you can put pressure for the government to order a referendum. You can put pressure for the government to change the Referendum and Plebiscite Act to allow for a citizen-initiated binding referendum. So they could potentially change the act to put a portion in there that says, hey, if citizens do this, it would initiate a referendum. And I think, to be honest, I think that I would see the government doing more that over a referendum, because then it takes the pressure off of them and it puts it onto the people. They will say, we just did what the people wanted, kind of thing. So how do you create pressure? You contact your MLA, you get a membership to a political party. That could even be NDP if your area is an NDP and they're the ones who have formed government. You join your MLA constituency association board. This is a place you can have a lot of influence within the provincial parties. You attend a provincial political party convention. So this is where you can vote on legislation or vote on priorities for the party to pass. Anyways, then it says register now. And you can find this at unifiedgrassroots.com. If you go to like the main page, let's see. This will come up. Don't do this. You can do that too if you want. If you want to be subscribed to our email, we send emails out. It's going to be weekly. I share like this today. I shared like a few of the interviews that I've done on the show. So some of the people didn't even know that we had like a regular show. So, but anyways, this is when you go there, it goes to the petition. This might look a little bit different tomorrow when I get the website people. I want this signature thing to be at the bottom. But we're trying to get it out there as fast as we could because I know a lot of people want to start doing something and we want to start organizing the people. Like I said, it's going to be more than just signing a petition. If people think that this is going to become successful by just signing something and that's it, they can sit on the couch and not do anything else, it's not going to be successful. We're going to need thousands and thousands of people willing to call people, willing to maybe put flyers on people's door, maybe knock on door and have conversations. But if you're supporting this in Saskatchewan and you have other people that you think would as well, share it with them. Send it their way. We need 125,000 people. So we have quite a few in our organization. If we were like, we have about 80,000 members and followers. So, but obviously not our entire organization is on board with this. We did a polling and 90% are. So it's why we felt the pressure to kind of move ahead with this. And that's what I've posted about on social media. But Lightning Rod says, does all the separation talk come from out of not having your choice of Democratic Party win in a Democratic election? If it does, what does that make you? No, it's not about which party won, because if the Liberal Party were to put policies that wouldn't harm Alberta and Saskatchewan, we wouldn't have this sentiment. It's because there's been so much legislation that has come from Ottawa that has directly hurt the people of Saskatchewan and Alberta, and it has had a more bigger negative effect on us than some of the other provinces. It's almost like Saskatchewan and Alberta's industries have been targeted, and they have, like the oil and gas industry, even the, like, just to give you a quick example, like the farming. Ottawa put tariffs on electric vehicles from China, and China retaliated by saying, we're not going to buy any of your canola. So whether seeds or oil. And now you have a ton of farmers with grain that are worth a lot less than what it even costs to produce. So a policy made by Ottawa that had and they can't say they didn't know China was going to do that. China's done that in the past when the Yahweh whatever person was arrested in Vancouver. They did the same thing. They said, well, we're not going to buy your canola. So I think you thinking that is because you don't understand, you don't know the sentiment that Alberta and Saskatchewan has, because you just don't live it. You don't see it. And I used to be like you. I'm originally from New Brunswick. It wasn't until I got out here that I understood. So, and if we're going to talk about democracy, I think we need to recognize that in the government, it's not fair representation, in which I've shared earlier. Alberta has way more population than all of the maritime provinces combined, and they have similar count for seats, but they have double the population. You're from small town Sask and you vote Liberal? Huh. You must feel really lonely with your political views. The quoted out says, why should I pay income tax to Ottawa so the East can have a surplus? Well, and that's the other thing, the equalization payment too, right? That takes a lot from Alberta. You're not from a small town Sask. So you worked in a small town Sask. Where are you from? There's usually like a really big delay. Okay. Anyways, that kind of about covers it. I did a big post on X kind of explaining the same thing, but just kind of why our organization has decided to move on this. And yeah, so we'll see. And I just want to clarify too, a referendum does not mean that the question's going to be asked is Alberta going to separate? Like, a referendum is a question posed. It could be something completely unrelated to separation. It's going to be determined by the petition what that question's going to be. Now, that question could be, is Alberta going to separate and join the US? Or is Alberta going to separate it and become its own republic? Or is Alberta going to still stay within Canada but have this different defined legislation, or like a country within a country with stronger legislation that can't be overridden by the federal government? Like, we don't know yet what that's going to look like, and I think it's going to take a lot of people researching the subject to determine what that's going to be. So I'm kind of hoping APP will have a lot of people, and Alberta has a lot more groups to do this kind of stuff. They have Alberta Institute. They have a lot of think tanks to kind of dig deep into this. So referendum doesn't mean exactly one thing. It could mean anything. Lightning Rod says, in my opinion, a major separation of any country in the 21st century would be a social and financial disaster. Max Power says, some people in Alberta and Saskatchewan don't want that to be the reality. Laura Lane says, network with them. I have. I've met all of the think tank leaders, so we're gonna be teaming up with them. And I think that's like a bonus too for our organization. We've been doing work with a lot of these people, not necessarily APP. I knew who they were, but I now we know each other, so we're gonna be working hand in hand. Actually, I had Mitch have a look at our version of it and give me his tips on it. So, but yeah. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for watching. We're at 2,100 people so far right now. Probably because we had lefties. I love it when lefties come because it's good to see the other perspective too. Especially, I like it when they're respectful because it helps the algorithm. But it also gives us a different perspective as long as they're respectful. Dylan Real says, making a new country is hard work, yep, but so are coups and revolts. Would rather go peacefully. That's a very good point. Very good point. When you get to a point where so many people have nothing to lose, which I think is the direction we're going to be going in, then people turn to violent ways. And this is like the very peaceful, democratic way to deal with stuff. Okay, David asked, when will the next week's stream be? Monday, Thursday? Yes, I will amend the, I guess all the not the posting, but like the description and stuff. I don't even know if there was a place to post that on YouTube. I just have it on my other social media. It was Tuesday, Thursday, but now it'll be Monday, Thursday. So there's more separation. And again, I'll probably go back to daily once I have childcare, full-time childcare again. Chia Pet says, I like your name. Change happens with intelligent and peaceful conversation. Yes. Max Power says Trump explicitly said he wanted liberals. Oh, it's quick comments. Where did it go? Okay, he wanted liberals to win. It was 100% foreseeable what a Carney win would spark a unity crisis. So you think he's doing it to try to gain Alberta? Or do you think he's doing it to have like a weaker Canada when it comes to negotiating the trade agreement? Curious. Quoted Al. You didn't follow me already. I didn't recognize your name, but just so you know, we have a community of people that are basically here at every show. It used to be again in the afternoon, but we just added David as the mod. He was like one of the first go, but we have, and some of the communities not on YouTube. Most of them are YouTube, but I think Squirrels Nuts is on X, which I think he should move over to. Actually, I think all of you should move over to Rumble because that's the only place that pays me for my video. Although I only get like 30 cents per live stream. But anyways, I like YouTube because that's where the biggest community is. So there's like probably 12 of us that are in every single live show, and it makes it so much more fun for me because I'm not just talking to a camera. I'm not just talking to myself, and we have some really interesting conversations. So come back. It'll be next Monday, 9 p.m. I'm going to stick to 9 p.m. I know it gets late for some people, but it's the only time that I can spend time with my kids before they're going to bed, and I can see my husband for a little bit. If I do at 8, I barely will see him. And then I can get like supper ready and eat supper with him. Oh, there's conversation. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a good night. This went way longer than I wanted, but there was so many good conversation and comments. See you guys.